and politicians questioning vaccine side effects in Congress and in parliaments around the world, and with government-funded agencies visibly appearing to manipulate excess death figures, we ask you, will the truth about these supposed medicines ever be allowed to fully emerge? Hello there, you Awakening Wonders. Thanks for joining us on our voyage to truth and freedom. Remember, you can join us for an esoteric, exoteric, peculiarly contradictory ride through truth by becoming a supporter of our content by clicking the link on the description. That's why I'm pointing to my midriff in this manner. There are no other reasons, let me tell you that. Become a member of our community. Join us for our conversation with Rand Paul. Join us for our conversation with Bobby Kennedy. Join us for our conversations with politicians that have always been alert to the possibility that the pandemic era was a uniquely exploitative one that revealed many systemic problems that are just coming to the forefront right now. Government agencies have just out of nowhere decided, you know, excess deaths? Yeah, we know excess deaths. Do you know excess deaths? Yeah, we're going to calculate them in a different way now. It's complicated statistics, information, numbers, maths. They're all very subjective concepts. This new way that you're going to calculate excess deaths, this is just a shot in the dark, which is what you've ironically been giving all of us. Is it going to make the number of excess deaths lower? Oh, yeah, it is. That's interesting. Let's have a look at even Dr. Phil, who was once a sort of Oprah Winfrey protege, is there anything more mainstream than that, announcing to the world that he's got some pretty serious questions.
And the same agencies that knew that are the agencies that shut down the schools for 2 years. Who does that? Who takes away the support system for these children? Who takes them away and shuts it down?
Remember when you had those questions? Hold on a minute, isn't shutting down the schools likely to lead to other conditions and problems and potentially complex social issues to do with welfare? Isn't it possible that if you shut down all of society, there'll be economic costs, mental health costs, addiction costs, costs when it comes to people's cancer treatments, heart treatments, all those questions that people were quite rightly discussing at the advent of the pandemic, which were, as we now know, censored and shut down and controlled for some reason. What was that reason? Remember the reason we're continually given and still given. That was to protect people. That was to protect people by making sure they take this medicine. This medicine, though, is it effective? Does it work in the way that you first claimed? Are there more side effects than you initially said? So finally, we're having conversations that we could have had 3 years ago that would save us all a lot of money and heartache and authoritarianism and dispute and protest and all sorts of challenges and problems, really. But elsewhere, there's clearly an attempt to control this information, as we'll show you. There's a brilliant British public information film about how numbers don't mean what you thought they meant. Numbers are different now. We're changing maths. Maths is a thing that you can meddle with. It's sort of, I see maths as subjective, really, just like a musical genre. We'll be showing you that in a second, as well as looking at why these questions are being asked and how these conversations are being framed now, I think, to minimize the impact of the emerging truth. But Dr. Phil's doing a great job there, and he's astonishing the regulars on The View, so let's watch him do yet more of that.
So there was also a pandemic going on, and they were trying to save kids' lives.
They were trying to save kids' lives. We don't need to get so deep into the burrows of doubt, do we, where we start to consider that there was possibly another agenda. But it seems like the sort of nexus of interest in the end were doing something other than trying to save kids' lives. It seems to me, at best, like the reflexive assertion of control and the inert accumulation of profits. Those seem to be two pretty powerful forces, but let's see if there's corroboration for even more malfeasant agenda at work. Global control, mass profits, population. I mean, there's all sorts of things that could be discussed and will be discussed on our other platforms. That's why we want you to become a supporter of our work, so we can speak openly, because the space that you're watching this now, unless you're praise be watching it on Rumble, could be subject to censorship in the same way that the platform that is being discussed on now is. You can see the room alter, bristle, bridle and prickle when Dr. Phil, nervously but robustly, like an agitated wardrobe, brings up the subject of natural immunity, which again was another censored subject at the height of the pandemic.
So remember, we know a lot of folks who died during this. So it wasn't, people weren't laying around eating bond, but, well, you know what? We're lucky. Maybe we're lucky they didn't, because we kept them out of the places that they could be sick, because no one wanted to believe we had an issue.
No one wanted to believe. There's an argument, some say, that people often unconsciously convey their deepest feelings while talking about another subject. And it seems to me that what's being avoided now is, we now know that social distancing measures, we just sort of came up with 6 feet. We shut down football just because my friend in another state shut down football. It's possible that the adverse events are far more pervasive and severe than was first suggested, COVID, even in a new global survey to a part funded by the agencies that told us that we should just get on and take that stuff. The agitation that Whoopi Goldberg is expressing, and I say this as a fan of Whoopi Goldberg, generally speaking, Ghost, etc. I've been on The View. I love Whoopi Goldberg. She's a brilliant stand-up comedian. Is the unwillingness to relinquish the perspective that we were kind of forced to have. It's very difficult, isn't it, to unfurl people's grip on an old lie. It's hard to get people to accept that we were lied to.
Are you saying no school children died of COVID?
I'm saying it was the safest group. They were the less vulnerable group, and they suffered and will suffer more from the mismanagement of COVID than they will from the exposure to COVID. And that's not an opinion, that's a fact.
Audience applauds there because we, the people, are becoming better informed every day because of independent media. You can also see how the media environment, the legacy media environment that we were just analysing, automatically provides a hostile and oppositional space when such matters like, oh, what, no children died? Is that what you're saying, that no children died? Like, Dr. Phil's like us to be on a tightrope above a pool of sharks, where if you go on MSNBC, for example, and say, if you take this vaccine, it stops with you, you won't get it, or this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated, no one's ever going, hey, come here, that thing you said about a pandemic of the unvaccinated, I've got some information for you. Those conversations never take place, do they? No wonder excess deaths are high, and no wonder excess deaths are so high that maths has had to be changed to accommodate it.
I'm a math-magician.
Man. But 7 goes into 28 4 times.
This is a magic 7.
Britain suffered just a third of the total excess deaths previously estimated in 2023. It was revealed today. It wasn't revealed today. It was manufactured by changing the way that maths works. Even though many charities and universities have reported unusually large upswings in mortality rates for conditions like heart disease, and even though insurance companies have had to amend premiums because people are dying that are not expected to die, so that means, hold on a minute, we can't insure you, 35-year-old person, because now, for some reason, you're more likely to die than ever before. Now what they've done is they've just changed the way they do math. Oh, well, that was a mistake. Those charities and universities must have been mad, or they must have had some sort of other agenda. No. What's happened is these charities and universities and people using calculators to go, well, that person's dead, that person's dead, that person's dead. They're all wrong. We've got this new system now called Make Stuff Look Better, so there's not massive uprisings. Fresh analysis of official statistics show 20,000 fewer deaths than expected occurred in the UK last year. No, fresh analysis. A pack of lies. Tolls for 2020 and 21 at the height of the COVID crisis were also revised downwards. Could we just revise these? In which direction? Upwards, because of all the ways we know that from and with COVID? No, downwards. Let's revise them downwards. Excess deaths are considered the most accurate way of measuring COVID's true impact because they cover deaths missed by testing and collateral fatalities. It is also considered the most consistent way to measure pandemic death tolls. Recording varies massively between countries. We can't continue to bring you this potentially paradigm-shattering information without the support of our sponsors. We got one for you right now. Stay to the end, please. Is it me, or does the future feel more insecure and uncertain? Wars, pandemics, lies, trickery. For those of you that are in the United States, there is a way to secure your hard-earned nest egg. American Hartford Gold makes it easy to protect your savings and retirement accounts with physical gold and silver. With one phone call, they can have physical gold and silver delivered right to your door or inside a qualifying retirement account like your IRA or 401k. American Hartford Gold is the highest rated firm in the United States with an A+ rating from the BBB, that's the Better Business Bureau, and thousands of satisfied clients right now. They'll give you up to $10,000 of free silver on your first qualifying order. This offer, I'm sorry to tell you, is only for customers from the United States of America. Call 866-505-8315. That's 866-505-8315. Or simply text BRAND to 998899. Then they'll know we sent you. Get up to $5,000 in silver and protect your future in this crazy, crazy world with some solid precious metals, literally made in stars. Now let's get back to the content. Traditionally, the figures were calculated by comparing the number of deaths in a year with the average number over the previous 5 years. Go on. But now, the Office for National Statistics, ONS, adjusts the rates to capture trends relating to age and population changes. Oh, trends you're capturing, not propaganda you're relaying.
I think I can smell shite.
Under the new calculations, there were an estimated 10,994 excess deaths in the UK in 2023, around a third of the original 31,442. Whatever new mathematic categories and switches of perspective they deployed, it had the, happy and coincidental effect of reducing excess deaths, which is, let's face it, the big fly in the ointment, the turd in the swimming pool of why we can't continue to say vaccines were so great.
Someone had a little, how would we say, accident in the pool.
These vaccines were so great, why are there all these dead people? Oh, because, we've already established that they didn't stop transmission. I know, I'm trying to think. I know they have all these adverse events. Like, look, I'm trying to think. If you keep talking, how am I to get in there and change maths itself in order to make this look better? At the time, experts blamed surging rates of cardiovascular disease as one of the leading causes of excess deaths. What could have caused that? Professor Carl Hennigan, the director of Oxford's Centre for Evidence-Based Medicine, seems like the sort of person we could trust, said the ONS estimates make excess deaths look more serious in 2020 and less serious in 2023. It's clear to us that something is not right. There have been more deaths than expected since the pandemic. But that's just old Professor Carl Hennigan at the Centre for Evidence-Based Medicine, the crackpot that's concerned there. Last year, the British Heart Foundation reported that since the onset of the pandemic, as of June 2023, there have been nearly 100,000 excess deaths in England involving ischemic heart disease or other cardiovascular diseases. The number of premature deaths from heart disease soared to a 14-year high in the wake of the pandemic, yet the government appears to lack any appetite for investigating the root causes. What could that be? Why would there be no appetite to investigate the root causes? Could it be that they made decisions that led to these deaths, endorsed products that led to these deaths? Seems astonishing that what they've actually done is, what if we were to change maths? The new changes saw excess deaths in 2023 revised down from 31,442 to 10,994, a drop of 65%. This is like a film where prisoners play football against the guards, and then at the end the guards go, "We've got an extra 25 minutes of extra time." It's like, we're winning because the results are in. You're like, hey, what are you going to do about all these deaths? What deaths? I didn't see no deaths. This is actual, literal corruption. And the film I'm referencing is Escape to Victory.
A stacked game. The Third Reich's finest against a ragged bunch of prisoners of war.
But there are claims that it underestimates the true picture today because current death rates are increasing in part because of the excess death problem. Oh, you bastards. Professor Kevin McConway, the Emeritus Professor of Applied Statistics at the Open University, said there is no such thing as a correct number of excess deaths and urged experts to focus on getting to the bottom of what was causing the increased mortality rates. That shows you what happens in bureaucratic dictatorships like we essentially live in now. Instead of going, oh my God, what's causing these deaths? We've got to help people. Yes, we have got to help people. What if we make that number look littler? But all those people that are dead will still be dead. I know, but it's going to look a lot better when you're looking at it from an ivory tower laughing on a bed made out of money. The ONS method gives a measure of how many excess deaths there were, but tells us nothing directly about what was the cause of any excess, he said. There should be an investigation. Well, good luck getting that. The ONS defended its new methodology, saying it had worked with many academics and organisations for more than a year to make sure the modelling was robust. These academics, who funds them? And these organisations, what are they? They are managing reality in order to achieve a particular outcome. The reason that there is not more striving to change our corrupt systems is for the people with the most power, our corrupt systems are working. Professor Sheila Bird, former programme leader at the MRC Biostatistics Unit of Cambridge University, said getting excess deaths right was highly important for both the public and the COVID inquiry. Yes, it does seem to be quite important to know how many people have been killed as a result of recent events, and it seems somewhat concerning that the response to these excess deaths has been to change maths. You will not see a single legacy media organisation demand a conversation about how they arrived at this new statistical method. You won't see that. What you'll see is Albert Bourla puff pieces, various politicians brought onto shows and said, oh, does that mean Trump's probably conspiring with Putin? That's what investigative journalism in the legacy media looks like nowadays. But you and me know that they're up to something, and it requires the media, and it requires the government, and it requires big corporations, and it requires global organisations, you know their names, all of these little groups that work together to manage reality, to keep you docile, compliant and distracted, and it seems ill. If you should die as a result of some of their decisions, well, they've got a new mathematical method to conceal that death, and here it is.
During and since the coronavirus pandemic, we've generally seen more people die than we'd expect.
Yes, we certainly have. So how are you going to make this seem really, really boring so that we don't pay attention to it? Someone get Gene!
We call these deaths above average excess deaths. Different organisations have used different ways to calculate this.
And we've finally found one that makes it look like loads of people didn't suddenly die in 2020, 2021 and 2022 and 2023. And we've found a way of minimising that and making it seem not that bad.
Each with merit and particular uses.
But we've found one with merits and particular uses that are in alignment with our agenda.
For example, for planning health interventions and identifying emerging threats.
The biggest emergent threat is you waking up and becoming non-compliant.
In the spirit of continuous improvement, we've been working with independent experts.
How independent are these experts? Where's their funding coming from? And why are they so willing to go along with your agenda? Here's some independent experts I'd like to see involved. Jay Bhattacharya. Did you give him a call? No, I didn't think so.
And those across government and the devolved nations to develop a common UK-wide approach.
While you're watching this, you have to expel from your mind your knowledge that Moderna have employees from the FDA, that Moderna take employees from the UK government, that Pfizer spend an enormous amount of money settling lawsuits, that Pfizer spend a lot of money lobbying. As long as you expel all of that information, then you can cast from your mind the obvious fact that there's been significant excess deaths, and the way of solving that problem has been to change maths.
Using our new approach, today's release estimates 11,000 excess deaths in 2023.
Oh, that's good, because that's lower. Yes, in other news, this number here, that straight line, that doesn't mean anything anymore. And that one there, they used to call 8, that we call a snowman, that one we just call squirrel. Nothing means anything anymore.
While this is lower than our previous estimate, our new method accounts for the growth and ageing of the population.
It's not growing and ageing as much as it was because people are dying. You can't conceal that.
These are key factors in understanding how many deaths we'd expect to see and whether the number of deaths is below or above this estimate.
Just ask yourself this quite macro question. Why have they decided to do this now and put it out in the media? It's because obviously there's huge concern about excess deaths. What we're involved in now is a new phase of the pandemic. It's to put out surveys that minimise and mitigate the obvious adverse events. And now mathematics itself is being revised in order to minimise excess deaths. So the two key problems that have emerged from the pandemic period or the post-pandemic period are people died in extraordinary and exceptional numbers. You better control that figure. People got sick and ill as a result of the vaccines. This information can't be concealed anymore, but it can be managed because there's a point, even for us, even for people as willing to be compliant and as slumbering and sleepy as us, there's a point where we can't take it anymore. We're obviously reaching that threshold because pieces of propaganda like this are being released.
Looking more closely at the last months of 2023, there were actually negative excess deaths.
Oh, that's good. So everyone's fine then. Also, you're not poor and your food prices have gone down and everything's all right. And the Ukraine war is going very well as well.
Meaning fewer deaths than average being registered. Further back across the pandemic, the trends and peaks in excess deaths are the same using the new method as they were under the old.
That's literal Orwell. We have always been at war with Oceania. War is good. Peace is bad. 4 legs bad. 2 legs good. They're just changing information because it's becoming unmanageable. This is the key problem that independent media presents. Now we all have access immediately to alternative information and we can decide for ourselves. So they have to make arguments for why we shouldn't be allowed to decide for ourselves, because you look at something like excess deaths, you look at something like this piece of propaganda and you realise what's going on and you realise that you were right all along and you realise that the next step is to stop complying.
It's important to note that our estimates of excess deaths are just that, estimates.
That's all. It's just estimate. It's just the funeral that you watched on YouTube. It's just a person just dropping dead on a sports field. It's just young people getting heart disease at unprecedented levels. It's just wars all over the place that you're funding. It's just lies and propaganda. That's all it is. Estimates.
They can't be counted individually.
Unless you experience them or you know those people, in which case you've got to live with that forever.
Unlike death registrations, which haven't changed.
The only reliable piece of information is if you look at the web address, you'll see the word gov. That's short for government, and that's where that information came from. Can you trust them? That's the question I'd like to leave you with. I would say what we're experiencing is a new propaganda phase. Because the information is out there, the information has to be managed, manipulated, and altered to prevent what would be the subsequent phase. Disobedience, disillusionment, maybe even opposition and organisation of new systems. In a way, this is a very positive piece of propaganda because it shows us that they are beginning to understand what they're up up against. But that's just what I think. Why don't you let me know what you think in the comments and chat? If you want more content like this, you can become a subscriber. We do interviews with important people that will tell you the truth, and we make additional content just for you. Stay free. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.